finally bit the bullet and purchased myself some Clover crochet hooks. These hooks have been recommended to me for literal years to sort of help with hand pain, and I've been meaning to get around to purchasing some for almost as long. In the last few months, as my sort of pain situation has worsened a bit, I thought, nah, I've been rocking my cheap eBay hooks for, it's got to be 8-9 years now. Since I started crocheting, basically. And in addition to the hand pain situation, many of these hooks are falling apart. You can see the grips coming off that one. I've got a couple where the aluminium hook part itself has come out of the ergonomic handle, so I've had to glue that back in place. Some of them are grotty beyond my ability to clean now. This one's run through the warm water and soap cycle so often, but you can see it's built up a bit of muck. So a couple of weeks ago, I decided enough was enough. It's time to get some new crochet hooks, and I went with the Clover ones. But the thing is, I don't know if these are actually worth the hype. I bloody hope so, because I spent all this bloody money on them. Brief interruption, because I just wanted to clarify something, and that is that this video is not sponsored in any way, shape or form. I bought these Clover Amour hooks of my own volition with my own money, and I just wanted to make that clear. And now that I've done that, we can get on with the rest of the video. I want to take each of these hooks for a bit of a spin, a test drive if you will, and give you my thoughts and feelings at the end. So we've got, what have we got? We've got 2mm, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, and 6. So quite a few hook sizes to sink my teeth into. And what do we reckon? We'll go in order. We'll start with the 2, end with the 6. Yep, sounds like a plan. Honestly, I don't think I'm going to be spending too much time with the smaller sizes, so the 2, the 2.5 and the 3, just because they are not hook sizes that I use very often at all, just because I do find the smaller hook sizes makes that hand pain flare up a lot worse. So I try and avoid it where I can. That being said, I do have one specific project in mind that I would like to get around to crocheting eventually, that unfortunately, to make it work the way I envision, is probably going to have to rely on me using those smaller hook sizes. So I think now is a good opportunity to start that project, because it's going to take me a long time to get through, but I can kick things off here with the 2, the 2.5, and possibly the 3mm hook. All right, let's get started. So there is this aspirational, I suppose you'd call it, crochet project that I've had in mind for quite a while. I've even mentioned it a few times on the channel, I think, and that is to crochet myself an aquarium. Since I was a kid, I had, fish tanks and aquariums. I absolutely love them, but they're not something that I could maintain the upkeep on. So all of my fish tanks that I had to slowly get rid of over the years, which does still bum me out. I still do miss them, but I thought a good compromise would be to make myself a crochet version. But there were a few things that stood in my way. Number one, I didn't know what to put or use to enclose my crochet aquarium, but I actually took care of that a few months ago when I found something. I believe that is what I showed off in a video. It was some sort of old Lego case or something, not 100% sure, but it's like an acrylic box, and I thought that would be perfect for that purpose. The other thing that sort of made me hesitate with this project is to get the shapes that I want. I'm going to have to use smaller hook sizes and probably thinner weight yarn. My regular 8-ply is not going to cut it for most things. And that brings me to this point. So with my 2mm, my 2.5mm and my 3mm Clover hooks, I want to start crocheting or testing out some varieties of aquarium plants. Now I'm thinking of making this a beginner friendly aquarium, so we're only going to crochet the basic plants, ones that don't need like CO2 or fertilizer or like specific lighting. We're going to keep things basic. So the first one I'm going to start off with is probably, there's so many aquarium plants that I love, but I might go with like Vallisneria or jungle val as it's sometimes called, because I had that in a lot of my aquariums. I love how big it grows, how like messy it can get. And it should theoretically be fairly easy to crochet because it's basically just going to be a chain up and a single crochet back down. What I may do at a later stage, if I want to go with this particular aquarium plant, is add some wire around the edges so it will A, stand upright, but B, I can also shape it. So that is one option. The second one I want to go with is an aquarium plant that I absolutely love. It is called Suswasatang. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. But this is just one of those like weird plant things. In fact, I'm not 100% sure that it is a plant. It might be one of those ones that's technically algae. I might have to fact check that. I'm not 100% sure. I think like the Marimo moss balls, they are technically algae, but I can't remember if the Suswasatang is. Fact check that laterly. But yeah, I've always loved this plant. It's just it's a weird little thing. Like I'll put some images up on the screen so you know what I'm talking about, but I've had it in plenty of my own aquariums. So I would definitely like to crochet a version of that to have in my crochet aquarium. And then the third one I'd like to try and crochet here today is maybe an Amazon sword. Not the whole thing, but just one like stem. Because again, Amazon sword is a great, easy to grow beginner plant, but they're just so cool. And they can grow massive as well. So with the Amazon sword, I can do like several different versions of the plant in different sizes. So that's what we're going to, kick things off with here today. And I've got out my green, I was going to say yarns, but they're not technically all yarns. Some of them are embroidery thread, but that's what we're going to be using. And we'll go smallest to largest. So I'm going to start with my 2mm hook. Not only will I be testing out the hook itself, but I do want to see like how much I can crochet with these smaller hook sizes before things become like a little bit too dicey pain-wise. So that'll sort of give me a good indication of like how long this project is going to take. My guess is a bloody long time, especially because I'm working on it in between other projects that are already taking a bloody long time. I think I'm going to try making the jungle val first because this is probably going to be technically 3 rows. So, or like 2 rows, depending if you count the chain as a row. So I'm just going to chain. Now that I think about it, this is probably actually a better color for like the Suswasatang. It's definitely a better color for that. So I might switch it out because also like with the Suswasatang, I was just going to chain. That's literally all I was going to do and then like scrunch it up. And if I show you a picture of what the actual plant looks like, you might be able to see what I'm going for there. So that is like essentially all I need to do. Make a chain, and the length doesn't even matter. I could have made it longer than this if I wanted to, but then just like scrunch it up. And then if I did that over and over and over again and just joined all those pieces together, I think it would give kind of like Suswasatang vibes. So that is hook 2 done. Let's move on to the 2.5, and for that, what am I going to do for that? So the jungle val, that's going to be a super simple pattern as well. I'm just going to chain to the length that I want. I might leave that as it is for now because something I didn't do, which I should have, was measure the height of that acrylic box that I've got. So I'll err on the side of caution for now and make a smaller piece. But because if I do end up making an entire like jungle val plant, I'm not going to have all the strands be the same length anyway. So if this one's a bit too short, a bit too long, it doesn't matter too much because it's going to be mixed in with a whole bunch of others. Okay, and there is my first singular strand of Vallisneria. I'm actually going to put a stitch marker in this one because my idea is to come back in. If you will lay flat and stop twisting for me. My idea is to then introduce some wire, and I will introduce that wire from this point. It's going to go all the way up the side, round the top, and then back down the other side, and I would single crochet that in. When the time comes to try that, I'm going to like chain one, turn my work, single crochet back up this side and just all the way around. But I'm not going to be doing that today because I want to like save my hands for testing out some of these other hooks. Now we're going to turn our attention to the 3mm hook. There it is, 3mm hook. Now I did say I wanted to crochet an Amazon sword. That remains true. I do want to crochet Amazon sword, but from what I remember, the Amazon swords that I had, or the specific species that I had, they were a nice vibrant green. This doesn't really qualify as that. So what I'm thinking of instead is making another plant that I really liked, but this one's going to require a little bit of... Just give me a sec because the garbage truck has decided to turn up, so we'll wait for him to go past and then we'll resume. So what I'm thinking of doing today here instead of the Amazon sword is making a couple of pieces from a plant called Amazon Frogbit. I'm pretty sure, let me double check that. I'm pretty sure it was Amazon Frogbit. I used to love this plant, except the problem I had with it is that it grew so quickly. It was a plant that like would float on the top of the water, but it would grow so quickly that it would block out the lights to all of my other plants. And then if I let that go on for too long, they would die. Yes, that is what it was called, Amazon Frogbit. So yeah, I was just constantly pulling out Amazon Frogbit pieces from my aquariums and just, you know, tossing them in the compost pile in the backyard. And the truck is coming back down the other side of the street now. I think we're good. So yeah, and the thing about this plant, the Amazon Frogbit, is that it came in a variety of different shades of green. So there was some that would grow and they would be like a nice vibrant green. You get others that were paler. Some had like almost a yellow hue to them. So taking that into consideration, I think this color will do just fine for at least a few of the Amazon Frogbit pieces. The one thing that does give me pause about including them, you know, potentially in my crochet aquarium is I don't know how I'm going to replicate them floating on the top. We might have to figure something out there if I do decide to include them. But for now, I just want to like crochet a couple. So the Amazon Frogbit, it comes in, or it grows in like little clusters. So you'd have, I don't know, between maybe like 3 and 6 little rounded leaves, and they'd all be joined from little stems. I think this is, my knowledge is about a decade old at this point, so maybe I'm misremembering. Another thing I should probably fact check, but that is what I recall. So I'm going to make maybe 3 or 4 leaves here today. So we'll start off with 6 in a magic circle. And then I will chain 1 and work back in the opposite direction, because the Amazon Frogbit, the individual leaves, they're basically like tiny mini versions of lily pads. So I want to leave a little bit of a gap here. So that would be one little leaf from my cluster. And then I would just make, you know, 3 or 4 more and then probably join them together somehow. And then I've got to somehow figure out how I would have that floating on the surface of my crochet aquarium. And a positive thing I could see about including Amazon Frogbit in my crochet aquarium is sort of similar to the Amazon sword. they can come in a variety of sizes and shades in this case. So I could potentially use, you know, different yarns, different yarn weights, and get a variety of colors and sizes that way. But yeah, the thing that's tripping me up is the how would I include this? But that is a later problem. For now, I'm going to call it there because I have some editing I want to get done today. So I'll be hopping on the PC back there. But probably tomorrow I'm going to come back and we're going to continue on with, what are we up to? The 3.5mm hook. Well, this was supposed to be the portion of the video where I tried out the 3.5mm hook, and I left this hook size to last because my intention was to use this to crochet the next big amigurumi project that I was going to start, which would feature in my next video. However, I have very much reached that stage of life where I am now injuring myself by doing random innocuous things, and I buggered up my shoulder a little bit last night while drying my hair. So I'm going to be giving crochet a break just for a couple of days, and that means I won't be able to finish the 3.5mm hook review in time for this video to go up on Friday. That is tomorrow, and I need to get all of this edited as well. So hopefully, well, I say hopefully, but as of filming this, I have used all the other hooks in the range. So I do have like a general idea of how I feel about them. I don't think I quite need the 3.5mm input to form a full picture, but in the off chance that I do, it's not like I'm going to be omitting this entirely. I will be using it. It just won't be for a few days. Yeah, hopefully my review doesn't feel too incomplete without it, but I think we should be right. So I am going to go now and actually film the outro, but you guys are going to see the rest of the hook sizes first. This is actually the first time I'm filming in this location. So I don't know if the lighting and the sound is going to be brilliant. We're going to slowly dial that in as I go along, I think. Things have changed so much. I feel like I'm playing catch up at the moment. But anyway, today I am going to be testing out my 4mm Clover hook. This is the one that I have really high hopes for. I want this to be brilliant. Not that I don't want the others to be brilliant as well, but the 4mm hook is the hook size that I use the most. So, you know, should everything go well here today, you and I are going to be spending a lot of quality time together. So yeah, I want this to really work out. And I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone here as well, because I am finally starting on the next. I'm really hoping you can't see it in the background over here. Give me a sec. If in the prior section of this video there is a big blurred out spot in the background, that is why, but I've moved it now, so hopefully, yeah, you shouldn't be able to see that. Okay, but anyway, we are starting on the next amigurumi along pattern. I meant to start on this a couple of weeks ago now, but I didn't end up having the time. But today is the day we are making a start, and we are making a start with part A, which I need to get the pattern up for and be extra careful that I don't accidentally say what the part is. But for that part, I am going to need my yellow yarn. So let's get set up here. And that's another thing I'll have to check, like the lighting in sort of the top-down camera format as well. Because even when I had the old setup, you know, that was a little bit different to my regular lighting setup anyway. So yeah, lots of things that I need to just make a few tweaks and adjustments to, I reckon. Okay, pattern. Today's test is going to feature the Babao 4.5mm hook, and before we just get right into this, I do need to apologize in advance for any background noise. We've had family staying over for a couple of weeks because our place is closer to stuff that they need to do, so yeah, that's why there's been an increase in background noise. But today in particular, we're having a ferret play date. Teddy, come here. So some of you might be familiar with my little girl Tilly, but this is her big buffhead brother Teddy. You want to go hop down for a sec, Till? So say hello to Teddy. Some of you might have seen him back when we very first, or he's technically my nephew's ferret, but when we very first got them at the end of last year, he did pop up in one video back then. But yeah, he's grown quite a bit since then, haven't you, Teddy Bear? All right, yeah, you go play with your sister. So taking all that into consideration, there might be a bit of background noise today, but hopefully it won't be too much of an issue, because for the most part, this is just going to be me crocheting, and I'll hopefully put some soothing background music over the top of that when editing, so you won't have to hear all the horrible background noise. For the 4.5mm hook run, I'm just gonna keep it simple, stupid. I want to start work on the plant / moss / I don't know, fungi life for the background of my dragon skeleton. The skeleton itself is coming along nicely. I've still got a little bit of work to do, probably like the bigger pieces to go, but it's slowly getting there. And I figured I may as well get a start on the background pieces, because they're probably going to take a hell of a lot longer than the skeleton itself. If my previous work on my, the Triceratops skull that I have in my couch background now is any indication, it's not going to be harder to crochet those pieces. They're just very tedious and time consuming. So I figure getting a start early is a good thing. So for these ones, I'm just going to make a chain. I'm going to single crochet my way back down the chain and then scrunch it up. Pretty much exact same thing as what I did for the Saswasatang that I did when I was working on my aquarium plants the other day. I think I'm going to be doing that, but just on a much larger scale. So I'll be making the chain longer. I might even work half double crochet down the chain instead and see how that goes. Oh, got to get down low for this camera angle, but that is where I'm going to call it today, because there is other crochet stuff I'd like to get to, and I'm literally just chaining and single crocheting back down the chain, so it's not really keeping my attention that well. Bit tedious, but anyway, that's what I plan to do. Just scrunch it all up, press it together, and that's going to create a sort of moss-like effect when I have more of it, and place it all on my background. So yeah, 2 pieces down, probably 2,000 to go, given the size of the canvas that I'm working with. But we'll get there. We will get there eventually. It may take 5 years, but we will get there. It is 5mm hook time. What I'm going to do with this one is try and finish off. I'm not going to finish it today, but I eventually will off cam finish off this was going to be one of the hexy cardies I plan to customize, and I still do plan to customize it, but I don't think I'm going to make a video out of this one because, well, this is going to be for my sister for one, but two, what the plan is to basically just crochet a white hexy cardie, solid white, and to that I'm going to add some sakura or cherry blossom stems. So I'll be crocheting on brown branch details and then adding petals at certain points along those. And honestly, I just don't know if there's going to be enough there to create a full video. I mean, if any of you are interested in seeing that process, I can certainly change my mind and show it. But from my perspective, watching me crochet a couple of brown sticks, a couple of pink petals, and then just putting them on the cardie is not all that thrilling. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are, but as of now, I'm just going to do this project for my sister off cam. And to start that process, what I need to do is just add some width to the cardie itself. So I'll be crocheting, back and forth across here. The yarn I've got, because these hexy cardies were all basically using up scrap yarn, the yarn I'm using at the moment is not the yarn I used to make the original hexies. So you probably, or you might notice a bit of variation like in the white tone and even the thickness of the yarn. But it's not worth me going out and buying more of this when I have plenty of this to use up. So yeah, this is very much going to be a scrap project. Hopefully though it won't look, too bad. And even if it does, it's not going to be that big a deal because my sister just wants another nice big hexie cardi to wear sort of around home, especially now in the winter months. The difference is not quite as stark as I thought it would be. I mean, I can show you, but I don't know how well it's going to show up on the camera, especially this being white. But there you go. Yeah, I don't know about that. But this white is probably a slightly cooler tone, and the yarn is just a little bit thinner. But yeah, the difference between the two is not as pronounced as I sort of feared it might be. So I'll take that win, I guess. I'm not going to finish off just yet, just because I want my sister to try it on first before I do that, make sure it fits. And for that reason, I'm not going to start the second one just yet either, because I'd rather know like how many rows I actually need to add before I go ahead and do that. So I suppose that means we're going to call it there for now. What was that? That was a 5mm hook. So tomorrow or whenever I get a chance, I'm going to test out the next hook size, which is... Today, I'm going to be testing out the 5.5mm hook. One thing I am kind of working towards at the moment is just, doing up my little cozy crochet corner here a little bit, just make it look a little bit nicer, and maybe go with a few decorative items that I've never really had in my background before. And one of those things is going to be some cushions because, well, couch cushions, I figure that's a pretty good match. And to make those, I'm going to be using up some yarn that I have just laying around. This yarn is actually from one of my finished octopuses. So this is I'm calling this the medium-sized octopus. So I finished him. I am 3/4 of the way done with my octopuses. So I've got this guy here. That was one size I needed for the pattern. I have... this guy here, this one was an alternative pattern. See that it doesn't include any of the suckers, which, let me tell you, makes the pattern work up a whole hell of a lot quicker and also uses about 100 grams less yarn. Then there's this one in my background, which was the main one I did while making the written pattern. And the final octopus I'm working on, which I would say I'm roughly about 3/4 finished with that too, is like the big guy using the size 6 chunky yarn. All right, let's put you back over there. Apologies if there was a very jarring cut just then. I had to abruptly stop filming and go deal with something. But we are back now. I think I was discussing the octopus situation and where I am with that. And the reason I bring that up is because the leftover yarn from this octopus here is what I'm going to be making some cushions out of, because I have quite a bit of it left over. At the time of starting this one, I don't think I had quite locked in the exact yarn quantities I would need for the octopus. So I kind of overestimated and bought probably a little bit too much just to ensure that I wouldn't lose at Yarn Chicken. So that has left me with, I think, 2.5 skeins of this and 1.5 skeins of the plain blue that I used for the underbelly. So I'm going to be hopefully using up most of that on a couple of cushions. The first one I want to make, because at this stage I'm aiming to make 2. The first one that I want to make, which I'm going to be starting here today, is just going to be, a basic, straightforward, corner to corner, crochet square. And the reason I want to just stick with the basics for now is because I'm interested in finding out how this variegated yarn, there we go, will work up in a corner to corner format. I've just got to remember now how I started off a corner to corner project. I think I chained 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it was 3 double crochet. 1, 2, and 3. And then was it chain 3 or chain 6? I think it was chain 6 again. 1, yeah, because you used the first 3 chains to, yeah, because you used 3 chains to add an additional square and then work across the first square, I think. Okay, so we're going to do 3 double crochet there. 1, 2, and 3. And then it was, I think, yeah, like anchor that with a slip stitch and then chain 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, it's coming back to me now. 3, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, yeah, I've got the rhythm again. So what I'm just basically going to do, as I said, is make a square. I don't have a specific size in mind because it doesn't need to be a specific size, because I'm going to be making the backing to fit the front, and also I have probably too much stuffing with which I can fill this cushion with, so yeah, I don't need to hit like a certain precise measurement. But I don't want it to be overly large either. I'm sort of thinking at the moment maybe somewhere in the ballpark of 30 by 30 or 40 by 40 centimeters. Alright, so this is where we're at, and I think I'm just going to measure that because I reckon that might be a good size. So where's my tape measure? Okay, alright. Well, so that measures about 37, 38 centimeters, which is in pretty much the like area I wanted it to be in. So I'm gonna stop there for now. I'm not going to finish this today because I'm actually considering like making a transformation video for like this little area here, and I would like to include most of my pillow making process in that video, especially because I'm going to make a second pillow as well. I didn't bring any stitch markers with me, did I? Okay, you'll have to stay in there for now. But also I'm going to stop there because I do want to move on to the next hook size, because I'm hoping to get this video finished soon because it needs to go up in a couple of days. So the next hook size, actually I think was that 5.5? Yeah. So the next hook size and the last hook size that we're going to test in this video is the 6mm, and I'm not used to this setup yet. Everything is in a different spot from where I would usually place it. But I think I put the 6mm over there, and I'll go and grab that. Oh. Okay, and what I want to do with my final hook from my set is just add another round or 2 onto my forever blanket. So I finished off last time with one of the yarns that I used to have in my background, and because I have quite a few of them and I don't really have any other use for them, especially like the variegated yarn, I don't use it all that much, only in sort of specific circumstances, like the octopus, for example. I wanted that to have color variation, but outside that I don't use variegated yarns very often, so I am going to put them in here. After several weeks and several combined hours of using my new crochet hooks, with the exception of the 3.5mm, as I I discussed like 30 seconds ago, but you probably saw several minutes ago. But I think I've used them enough to develop a like solid idea of how I feel about them. Before I dive into that though, I do just want to like give a couple of caveats. Number one, given the medical conditions that I deal with, it would be absolutely ludicrous of me to think that I'm going to pick up one of these hooks, or any hook for that matter, and have my hand pain just magically disappear. That is completely unreasonable to expect. At most, I'm hoping to ease the strain a little bit. So I won't be judging the hooks by how well they, reduce sort of the overall pain, but how well they helped reduce the strain, if that makes sense. And number two is, while I have used all of these hooks so far, again, with the exception of the 3.5mm, so far that's only been for about between, I'd say like half an hour to 45 minutes to probably 3-4 hours max for the larger size hooks. So yes, I have used all of them, but I haven't yet made like one large project that's taken hours to complete. And that in itself may affect how I feel about them. Perhaps if I use them over an extended period of time, it might, change my thoughts and feelings. But if that happens, I can always update you guys. But that brings us to the question: how do I actually feel about these hooks that have been hyped up so much? And honestly, I quite like them. Yeah, I know, rein in the enthusiasm, Lee. Are they superior to the cheap eBay hooks I bought back in the day? Absolutely. Are they so superior as to justify like such a steep price? I don't know. I do have like a niggling suspicion that while you are paying for quality, I will admit that, I can't help but also think that we are, at least in part, paying for the brand name as well. Because these hooks, they are, lovely to work with. I just don't think they were quite as extraordinary as all the hype had led me to believe, but they are definitely worth, some of the hype. For the big thing that stands out to me is just how smooth of a crocheting experience I had when using these. They picked up stitches so well. They glided through the yarn with ease. Even yarn that I have that I know with my older hooks was prone to splitting, it did not happen when I was using the Clover Amour hooks. The next thing I noticed with these hooks is that I've got the 5.5 at the moment, but let me grab out the, what was the 5? 5. All right, so this is the Clover Amour 5mm hook. This is my old 5mm hook, and you can actually feel the weight difference. It's slight but noticeable, and it is my hope that when I eventually do get around making to those larger projects that will take a longer period of time, that the lighter weight then will come in clutch and reduce that strain on my wrist. The one, I'd say, minor critique I have of these hooks is, and this is probably more down to personal preference than anything I can really hold against the hooks themselves, but I personally just wish that the grip itself, the handle, was a little bit wider. I do like the size of the grip for these hooks here. This was just another set I got on eBay, but it was a bit wider. So let's see. Not heaps, so I don't know how well that's going to show up, but like if I compare those two, it's just like that little bit wider than the Clover Amour hooks, and even my old set of crochet hooks. If you try and eyeball it, I don't think you can really see it, but that is a little bit thicker as well, and I prefer that. I find that easier on my hands. So if anything, I do wish the ergonomic handle was a little bit girthier and easier to grip, but so far it hasn't been so bad that I've noticed any like negative effects. But once again, I'm going to reiterate that that may change as I use these hooks more and more. So my overall opinion is, yeah, I do recommend the Clover Amour hooks, if only for that nice smooth crocheting experience. Do I think they're worth such a steep price? Maybe this is just the frugal budgeter secondhand shopper in me, but at full price, no. If you can get them on sale, I'd say yeah, go for it. But They just strike me as very expensive. I do think they are very good, if perhaps like overhyped a little bit. But I don't know, maybe people just get really excited about like the smooth crochet glide, which I can totally understand. When it comes down to it, I was due for a hook upgrade anyway, and in the end, in conclusion, I am glad I went with the Clover Amour ones that have been recommended to me for a very long time. So I'll be swapping out my old hooks. They'll be going into their retirement home, which is just going to be an old pencil case, and I'm going to replace them with these ones. In fact, I'm going to put you back in the box now, just so I don't get them all muddled up during the transition period. I will have to keep some of my old hooks because this set goes from 2mm up to 6mm, and not often, but occasionally I will use like a 7mm hook, an 8mm hook. Perhaps at some point down the road, if I continue using those hook sizes, I might branch out and purchase the Clover Amour version of those too. But at the moment, I don't use them enough to really justify that expense, so we'll hold off on that for now. What we're not going to hold off on though is... And today's featured creator on the hookup is bakerbunnycreations, and she says, I make crochet handmade items and sell them on my Etsy. I've been crocheting since October of 2022 and haven't put it down since. I crochet as a stress reliever and sell my items to be able to pay for college. Yes, I can confirm that crochet is a good stress reliever, although sometimes it can be a stress inducer. For example, when you bugger up your shoulder and you can't crochet for a little while and all you're thinking about is what you want to crochet, that can be a little bit stressful, but on the whole, it is a stress reliever. Okay, that is where we're going to call it there for today. If you have used the Clover Amour hooks, let me know what you think of them. One thing I forgot to mention, it just came to me then, is that I think the Clover Amour hooks are like more tapered than my original hooks. I think mine tended more towards like inline, and I'm kind of wondering now if that more tapered head is one of the reasons for the smoother crocheting, the glide we had going on. Possibly, I'm not sure. I have to explore more of that later. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Share it if you think it's worth sharing. And I will see you in the next one, where hopefully we'll be using the 3.5mm hook so I can update you on my thoughts if they change at all.